Hey guys, Josh Lloyd here. The NBA is back. We've had opening night, and now we're looking at a massive 13-game Wednesday across the association. I am here to give you the first look at DraftKings pricing to help you build your lineup. Of course, if you don't know me, I'm the host of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, and I work at Basketball Monster as well. So let's get into talking about these games because there is a lot to talk about. Obviously, with 13 games on, it is a wild-looking slate. So let's get straight into looking at those. The first game we're going to look at is the Heat and the Magic. We're talking about a Florida affair here. I'm really interested in Markelle Fultz in this one. We know he's just signed his extension, but him coming in at $5,000 to me is just an obvious play. There are a few other obvious ones in this one, but I love Fultz here at $5,000. Also, James Ennis has been ruled out for Orlando, so that means that Dwayne Bacon's going to get another start, and he is absolutely a minimum player. Like, he is not a good player, but at the minimum salary, Dwayne Bacon is someone that we can look at because he can get hot. He can come in and have 12 quick points. And at your $3,000 minimum, he gets you 17, 18, 25 points if he goes off. I really like him for GPPs. We can look on the Miami side of things. Bam Adebayo, obviously a really solid one at $7,300. That also, to me, looks like a really strong price. I don't know why Bam is priced as low as he is at that sort of a salary. We don't know what the Heat starting lineup's going to be. They could be throwing Myers Leonard, Mo Harkless, Kelly Olynyk, KZ Okpala, another name that's been thrown out there, but I like Bam nonetheless. He averaged 41 fantasy points a game last year, and at 7,300, it just seems like seems foolishness to me to not have him in there at that sort of a price. It just doesn't make really any sense at all to not have him as an option. Let's look at the next group. Next game, we're looking at the Cavs and the Hornets. Here, the Cavs are just without everybody. No Kevin Love, no Kevin Porter, no Dante Exum, no Matthew Dellavedova. There are no ball handlers on this team. Everyone's out, apart from Garland and Sexton. There is no bench ball handlers to use. That means that we're going to get a lot more Isaac Okoro. He comes in at $3,400. That is really cheap to me. So I like throwing Okoro in there quite a bit. We haven't seen him in a regular season NBA game yet, but I love that. I love throwing Darius Garland in as well at his cheap price. He's going to have to play a ton of minutes, and $4,100 is very cheap. And Andre Drummond's not going to have Kevin Love taking rebounds away from him. So I think we can look at Love as an $8,000 option as well. There's so much value around on this slate. I also think if we look at the Charlotte side of things, I'm not all that keen on LaMelo at $5,400. Not against it. Gordon Hayward is going to play. Again, that's something that we need to pay attention to because there was some thought that perhaps he wouldn't, given the issues with his finger, but he is ready to go. So I think we look at Gordon Hayward as a solid enough option. But what I really like from Charlotte is PJ Washington, who really struggled in the preseason, but he is at $4,200. He averaged almost 26 fantasy points per game last year, and at $4,200, I'm all about that as well. I think there's real value in a lot of those guys. Okoro, Washington, Garland, Drummond in particular, Hayward and Sexton also. They look pretty strong from a DraftKings perspective too. All right, let's go now on to, should have flicked the little graphic over there. These are just teething problems. Let's go on to the next game. We're looking at the Washington Wizards and the Philadelphia 76ers in this one. We know that Rui Hachimura is out for the Wizards. I don't know who they're going to start. Will they throw Davis Bertans in there? Will they throw Bonga and Denny Avdia in as the starters? I think that's a possibility. There's not as much value in this game as there are in others. I think Avdia at $4,000 is someone that we want to look at. That's a cheap price for him. It's not the greatest play on the board, but there is value in that. I do like Bertans at $55. Has some value to me too, but not as high as others. And I think if we look at Tobias Harris, the thick hogsman, he's at $6,200. That works for me also. Cheaper option, Shake Milton. He's going to get shot attempts. I think we don't have any doubt about that. So there's GPP upside play there. And I think Joel Embiid's really going to have a field day going up against Thomas Bryant. Now, Thomas Bryant is or can be valuable in his own right. But Embiid at 9,800, this is a real 50-point territory, real 50-point energy here for Embiid. Westbrook's at 9,300. I'm not super keen on that. I think it's not bad. And same as Simmons at 87, but I reckon we can find better options out there than those two at those prices. The Knicks and the Pacers. Another one of the early games. So they're your 4 early games done. The Knicks and the Pacers here. This one here, the spread, they've got the Pacers favored by 8. The total is 212.5. There was some thought the Knicks might start Emmanuel quickly or start Kevin Knox. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. That's not confirmed. It looks like we're going to have Alfred Payton, Alec Burks, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Nerlens Noel, with Robinson and Quickly and Knox all coming off the bench. The Pacers, TJ Warren is listed as questionable with his plantar fasciitis, and it also came out today that Sabonis is still dealing with his plantar fasciitis. I expect them both to play. Miles Turner not on the injury report, so there is some value in using him. But Nerlens Noel at 3,600, how the hell do you go past that? That looks really, really strong to me. I also think that if we look at Alec Burks at 4,800, I don't think many people are going to be rostering Alec Burks. He had a pretty good year last year, and as really the only shooter in that starting lineup, I think he's worth looking at, as is Malcolm Brogdon. I do like Brogdon at 6,200. It's more of a cash play than a tournament play, I think, but it's still got some use. And Sabonis is going to have his way at 7,400. Really like Sabonis there at that salary. I think RJ Barrett is another guy we can look at who's been really good in terms of his shooting numbers in the preseason, which is not something that we've really ever been able to say about him at all during his rookie season. But he's someone that for sure we can take a look at here, I think. And at least give him a crack. So this is a game to look at with some value from a DFS perspective. I said the Pacers favored by 8. The total is 212, so that's a low one. That's the lowest of the day. So maybe we have some reason for pause in that one. The Bucks and the Celtics. One of the games of the day is the next one that we're going to take a look at here. We know that Kemba Walker is out for Boston, as is Romeo Langford, but Tristan Thompson, a surprise starter, didn't look like he was going to be, not starter, or starter in terms of he's ready to go. He didn't look like he'd be someone that would be expecting to be ready for opening night, but here he is, and he's going to be healthy and ready to play. If we want to look at some options that I like here, I think Dante DiVincenzo at 4,000 is going to have to start, and DJ Augustin is not going to play, most likely for the Bucks. So that's more minutes for their guards, because their backup point guard situation, it's Sam Merrill or Jalen Adams. So Drew Holiday and Dante are going to be doing a lot of ball handling. So DiVincenzo at 4,000 looks good. Gianni Antetokounmpo at 10.2. I really don't see how anyone's stopping him. That looks massively strong to me. Daniel Tice at 53. I'm a little bit souring on Tice just because of Thompson being there, even though Thompson's minutes are going to be limited. Tice at 53 is a low upside play anyway. And Jason Tatum's all the way up at 92. Now, his preseason wasn't all that encouraging, but I think there is a marginal bit of value in Tatum. And if you want to go real cheap, I think Javonte Green is going to be a starter for the Celtics. So maybe you could have a look at Javonte Green. He is priced at 3,300, which is obviously a pretty solid price. He's not the greatest producer, but if you want to differentiate yourself on a 13-game slate, well, that's one way that you can go about that. Let's have a look now at the Pelicans and the Raptors. That is the next game that we're looking at here. The Raptors are 4.5-point favorites, and the total is 229.5 points. Zion Williamson comes in at 7,500. Really, I'm in on that for Zion. He doesn't have a minutes restriction. They're going to play him a lot of minutes. I'm big on him there. I also like Lowry and Van Vliet at 71 and 67 respectively. Both good value plays there. I put Bledsoe in there. I didn't mean to throw him into that lineup. I think we'll look at Zion there. He averaged 35 a game last year. I think he's going to be... He could have a 50-pointer here, really comfortably. Another name to look at, I think, is OG Anunoby at $5,000. Anunoby, that's a cheap price. There's talk of him maybe getting a larger offensive role. I think he's more of a GPP guy, really, than a cash game play. But he is an option to me as well. I'm not that keen on Siakam. Norm Powell is questionable. If he is out, that boosts that Van Vliet and Lowry value as well. And if Norm Powell does happen to be out, I wouldn't hate throwing someone like a 3,800 Terrence Davis in, provided he's able to play, or even someone like a Malachi Flynn, who could come in and have a little bit of a surprise performance. I'm not ruling out Flynn being marginally useful. The Thunder and the Rockets. That's the next game that we're going to take a look at here. Theo Maledon and Ty Jerome are out for the Thunder, so their backup point guard situation looks pretty rough. Ben McLemore is out for the Rockets, so that's not a great situation. I've got to look at this, and I've got to look at the point guard spot, because George Hill is probably going to be the starter for the Thunder. and he is priced at a ludicrously priced. Like, it's just super, super cheap. If I can just bring it up on the screen because I'm just having some technical difficulties. George Hill, 3,600. Like, that is nonsense. Last year, he averaged almost 20 fantasy points per game, and he's going to have a larger role, I would imagine, this year. So that looks brilliant to me, as does big Alexei Pokusevski. Minimum salary for Poku. He's going to be in the rotation as well. And then you've got Shea at what's he priced at? 7,500. They're only listing him as point guard only, which is a little bit strange. But Shea at 7,500, who got 35 a game last year, could be a 45 to 50 point player. I also like the low price on Darius Bazley, who comes in at 5,100. Bazley had some big games in the bubble when Gallinari was out. And of course, Gallinari is not here this season. So I think Bazley at that 5,100 mark, it looks pretty good to me. So some interesting value picks there. The Rockets are 6.5 point favorites. Oh, actually, I didn't even talk about James Harden, who is at 10,400. And that's good if you're looking for that high price guy, which I think he's worth looking at. Same with Christian Wood at 6,300, but they're not the best value plays in this game. I think they are still really good, and I love Wood at 6,300, as you can see there. That's a really strong price for Christian Wood, who last year averaged 25 points per game. I think that's real value in him there. You've also got John Wall, who's at 74. Now, I think there are much better ways of spending it, much like spending 6,300 on Wood versus 7,400 on John Wall. So I do like that Christian Wood price tag quite a bit, to be honest. Let's go on to the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls now and take a look at how that value might shake out. Just going to clear that lineup there so we can add some players in that I like. We've got Patrick Williams as a minimum salary player. He is going to start, is my understanding. And at minimum salary, you got to use him. Wendell Carter Jr. is also insanely cheap at 4,400. He should beat that number. Lauri Markkanen is down at 4,800. Like, these are just insane prices. Markkanen last season averaged 28 points, and he's at under 5,000. Like, that is insane value. Williams could easily have 24, 25 points here at 3,000. Insane value. Kobe White, I haven't even got down to him yet, but he's at 6,500. It's not quite as good value as those other guys, but it's still really, really good. So I don't understand the way that these prices are being done at the moment. They're just crazy, really. Some of these salaries. So I am in on using these guys now. If we look at the Hawks side of things, Clint Capella is doubtful. So that opens things up a lot for John Collins. He's at 7,600. So I imagine they'll start Gallinari and Collins together. Collins averaged almost 42 a game last year. He's at 76. He does provide much more value when he is playing at center, so that does work in his favor. Levine at 79 is also not a bad play. I think there are just so many better other options here, like Carter and Markkanen and Williams at their cheap prices. Trey's at 9,400. I reckon I'd be cautious with that. I'd rather spend up the 10-4 on Harden, for example, in those big price guys, or Embiid that we talked about earlier, rather than spending that on Trae Young, just given how maybe the fit's a little bit wonky and unfamiliarity with a lot of the players on his team. I think Cam Reddish at 39 also looks like a solid enough GPP option. He's listed as probable. DraftKings has him as questionable here. He's listed as probable. He averaged 20 a game last year and he's under 4,000. He's got 25 to 30 point upside would be my guess there for Cameron Reddish. The next one is the Spurs and the Grizzlies, and a bit of a surprise for the Spurs. And Keldon Johnson, he is going to be available to play. We didn't expect him to be there for the first week or so of the season, but he is ready to go. So that does change up some of their rotations. I still like Devin Vassell at minimum salary. I like him less now than I did when we heard that Keldon wasn't going to play. But $3,000 for Vassell looks really good. DeJounte at 50. We know Derek White's out. He's out. So DeJounte Murray at 56 is a strong option too. And with Jaren Jackson Jr. and Justice Winslow out for Memphis, we've got to look at Kyle Anderson, who was playing really well in preseason. Now, I don't think his upside is all that high, but he is at 4,200. And even in last year where he wasn't great, he still averaged 17 points. And I think he's more of a 25-point guy who could go even higher than that. LaMarcus Aldridge didn't look great in the preseason, but at 6,500, we know who LaMarcus Aldridge is, so I think I like that a lot. And Ja Morant at 84 is, if you don't want to go all that way up to Harden, I think I'd prefer to spend 84 on Morant than I would to spend 94 on Trae Young, given that price differential. Morant's looked fantastic in the preseason. He only averaged 35 last year, but I imagine he is going to play. significantly more minutes this season than we saw from Morant last season. Let us go on now to the next game. We're getting through these ones, a lot to talk about. The Pistons and the Timberwolves. The Wolves are 4.5-point favorites in the total 224 here. Love Mason Plumlee, and that's not a sentence that I would say all that often because he comes in at just an insanely cheap price, Plum does. Let's bring him up here on the screen. 3,700 for the starting center. He averaged 17 points a game last year in minimal minutes, and those minutes are going to go up. That is an absolute steal. And Killian Hayes at 3,900. Now, Hayes may not be good, but I feel pretty good about him beating that number. That just seems insanely low. Karl Anthony Towns at under 10,000 is always someone I want to look at. There are some concerns with him, so I'm not going to say that that's the best option, but he averaged 52 a game last year, so there is something there for him. I wouldn't be looking at Jeremy Grant or D'Angelo Russell too closely, and I think if we want to go minimum salary punt options, Josh Jackson is someone that we really want to take a look at, given that he's going to be in the rotation. He's going to be a guy who's an option. He averaged 18 a game last year, and at minimum salary, you got to love that, and that gets you some higher price guys into your lineup. So some real value with Josh Jackson there. The Kings and the Nuggets is the next one we take a look at. The Nuggets are 8.5-point favorites here. JaMychal Green is out. I think that's going to give Paul Millsap somewhat of a boost because we saw Millsap play pretty well in the preseason, and this is going to help him out, getting just a couple of extra minutes, which should work in his favor. Let's bring this up now. The Kings and the Nuggets there. In terms of where the value lies here, I think really Hassan Whiteside at 38. We assume he's going to come off the bench, but that price, he can still beat it pretty easily. I think Marvin Bagley at 4,900 is worth a look as well. We don't have any confirmation, but it does appear that Will Barton will start over Michael Porter Jr. I like Richaun Holmes at 42, but I wouldn't want to use Holmes and Whiteside together, given they'll be competing, and I would take the 38 for Whiteside over that for Holmes. And then Paul Millsap is at $5,000. He averaged 22 a game last year, so that's not great, and I wouldn't say that he is a really high upside player, but he is at least someone with some value. Big Chungus Nikola Jokic at 9,600 looks pretty good as well. I'd prefer to use him than I would Karl Anthony Towns. I think he's going to have a real field day here, Jokic, against the Sacramento Kings, so he would look like a strong option to me. De'Aaron Fox at 7,800 is all right. I just think we can probably do better. Same as the headmaster Jamal Murray at 8,100. I think we can probably do a little bit better than him at this point. The Jazz and the Blazers for the second last game of the day. For this one, the Blazers are 1-point favorites. The total is 229. Not as many good value plays here. Look, Nurkic at 7,000 is okay. 5,100 for Bojan Bogdanovic is okay, but they're not spectacularly good. The spread for this one, or the total, is 229. Lillard at 9,000, strong. Mitchell at 8,000, pretty strong as well. But I wouldn't say that they are the 100% best players on the board, especially when you're going up against a Jazz team whose defense is really good. Does that limit guys like Lillard and perhaps guys like Yusuf Nurkic, who has struggled in the past against Rudy Gobert? The last game of the day is the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns. Honestly, one of the games that I am absolutely waiting for the most. Chris Paul is listed as probable. I wouldn't be panicking about that one, but Frank Kaminsky, who was likely going to be their backup center, isn't going to play. So that's going to put some weird guy into that lineup. Doncic at 10,000, I love it. I absolutely love Doncic at 10,000. That is super, super good. In terms of his price, probably the best high-priced player on the board. Maxi Kleber at 3,900 also looks pretty good. He's listed as probable for this one. DeAndre Ayton at 73 and Chris Paul at 7,000. I like both of those. 7,000 for Chris Paul. This is a guy that last year averaged almost 38 points. That's really strong for me. Booker is, Devon's at 8,900. I reckon I might fade off of that, but Ayton at 7,300 against a Dwight Powell-led front court. I think Ayton at 73 looks pretty juicy to me. Guys, that's it. That's the games. 13 of them on. Be judicious with how you set your lineups, because lots of stuff can change, lots of stuff can go wrong. Good luck with your lineups, and don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell, turn on notifications, leave a comment down below as well, guys. See you later.